I feel like my based. Gosh, why can't the Kentucky stay in for one video? Hey y'all, welcome to Clover Room. So yesterday I put on a face of makeup and it was kind of unique because I was just doing my makeup to do my makeup. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't trying to have like makeup playtime and like experiment with products or textures or techniques or anything like that. I kind of just want to sit down and do my makeup without a goal, and I don't want to like necessarily reach for stuff that I need to like get some thoughts on or have a specific look in mind or anything like that. I just want to sit down and do my makeup and kind of choose everything that I want to choose. That's what I did. I put on a nice little relaxing YouTube video, zoned out, did my makeup. And again, it wasn't even makeup playtime because it wasn't like me experimenting with anything. I just did my makeup as I would want to do it in like a very ideal world. There was no time crunch. There was nowhere to be. And at the end, I had a finished product where I was like, this is my best face of makeup. Like, this is it. This is my ideal. This is what I want every day. It makes me feel so beautiful and it makes me feel my best. I wish I had an avenue to share this with everyone. And then I remembered I have a YouTube channel and I was like, wait, I do. It's called Clover Room on YouTube. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to put on what I consider my best face of makeup. I was thinking like, oh, is that too similar to my Clove Shelf video where I shared kind of my favorite products right now? And I kind of had a similar look on in that video and in other videos I've done. And it's not even necessarily that these products are favorites, that these products are like the best in my collection, but just in its totality, the face of makeup I'm going to put on, which is going to be a recreation of yesterday's makeup, is my best makeup. It just, my skin is covered, but it's not too covered. It's glowy, but it's not overly glowy. The eyeshadow and blush and kind of color cosmetics on my face are neutral, but kind of to the left of neutral, more toward warm tones, I would say. I consider the tones I'm going to use on my eyes especially to be kind of these teddy browns. That's how I think about them in my mind. They're probably technically neutral, maybe a hint of rosy, a hint of warmth browns, but to me they just give kind of this beautiful teddy brown look. And I just was like, I need to get this to the people. I need to, because I was just going to post a picture of the look I did on Instagram because I took some pictures yesterday, but then I was like, no. I need to get this to the people, especially because I wanted to offer this as an example of something that makes me feel beautiful. I feel like I've been talking a lot lately about things that make me feel dysphoric, like green eyeshadow and other makeup stuff. And I thought it'd be helpful to give a really direct example of the makeup that makes me feel my best and most beautiful and all of that good stuff. So the makeup I'm using today, I'll link down below. Some of those will be affiliate links. They will be marked. You know, if anything strikes your fancy, obviously, it helps to support me if you do buy through my links. But I do want to say this is also just a great video if you haven't done your makeup for yourself. And again, I'm not talking about makeup playtime. I'm not talking about creating content. I'm not talking about a night out or an event where you are making a face of makeup to go with that event. I'm talking about doing your makeup for yourself and using the best stuff or the tones that make you feel the best to just do it and just to like feel your fantasy, but it's not even a fantasy. It's your best reality. I think this is a perfect video to do that to have as a backdrop to you doing your best face of makeup. That's always an option. Or you can just chill with me. You can just, you know, have a little glass of wine, have a little coffee, whatever you want to do. I'm so glad you're here. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Cam. I'm a trans femme non-binary creator. I really love to talk about beauty, but from a little bit more of an intentional perspective. I also do some commentary. I talk a lot about my gender identity and how it relates to beauty and how a lot of stuff that is really important relates to beauty, because I think beauty is often an extension of ourselves, and that's super important. A note, my dog is sleeping in the background. I didn't say that in the last couple of videos, and people were like, what is that sound? And then they're like, oh my god, it's your dog. If you find it distracting, please let me know. I like having Dodger in here. I mean, I have a very small apartment, so if he's in the living room, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, and I think he'd be fine with it too. But I think he likes being in here with me. But if it, like, I know some people have commented that they really like the pit snores and like they like kind of the ASMR of him sleeping. If it does legitimately bother you, please feel free to let me know if it's like super distracting. I hear it when I edit, and I know people hear it when they watch my videos, so it won't offend me at all if it's something that you would rather not have. But please let me know, and if you do hear those noises like right now, that's dodgeball. That's a little dodgeball. let's just get into the look. I already did my brows off camera, and I'm going to start with eyeshadow like I always do. I'm going to use the same primer that I always do, the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. I said in one of my last videos where I was getting ready, I offered up a question. And I said, why do people who do their base, why do some people do their base first instead of their eyeshadow first? Because to me, it just feels very intuitive to do my eyeshadow first. And that's just the way I've decided to do my makeup. Got a lot of interesting responses. It's all in the comments if you want to read through it. The most popular responses were the people needed to have areas around their eye covered up so they could fully see the eye look. And then also just that people felt like that was the natural order of things to do your base first. And I guess kind of that classic early 2010s YouTube aesthetic of having like a pretty full beat base done before you start your eyeshadow look. I thought they were all fair responses. I still am going to be an eyeshadow before anything, girl, because that just makes the most sense to me. And I always think of it as a bonus that my eyeshadow, I like how it looks, but then I know it's going to get even better once I put some complexion makeup down. So I kind of like that I can't see the full potential of the eye look until I put complexion on. But I can also see, some people said if they had really prominent colors around their dark circles, that it was just too distracting with certain eyeshadow colors or all eyeshadow colors. So that all made sense to me. I thought it was interesting. Then some people were like, I don't even wear foundation. And I said, that's awesome. I think there's nothing cooler than not wearing complexion makeup. And I do that sometimes, but I also really, really love complexion makeup. It makes me very happy. All right, so the first thing I'm going to start with is an oldie but a goodie. I pulled this in my most recent Shop My Stash video. This is the Glossier Monochrome Trio in Almond. This has been a long time favorite, but not something I've gotten a lot of use out of in the last year, I would say. I've obviously, I have dips in all the shades. I have a pretty significant pan in the matte in here. I've always maintained this is not a great formula. Glossier did not do anything groundbreaking with these eyeshadows formulaically, I suppose. But this specific color, Almond, is kind of the classic, to me, teddy brown color. It's like a little kiss of warmth, but it's really just this almondy, rosy toned, warm brown. I guess you could almost consider these rose golds, but to me they're not super golden. They still have a pretty significant beige brown aspect to them. And in here you get a matte, you get a satin, and you get a more metallic shade. I'm definitely gonna use the matte and the metallic today. That was a pretty key part of the look I did. That was part of my best makeup. I may use the satin, I'm not entirely sure. And then the other thing I'm going to use, actually there's two other things I'm going to use my eyeshadow look. I'm going to use this VISEART, I always have to look at the name for this, even though I use it all the time. The Petite Mattes Neutral Palette. I'm just going to use some of the browns in here. I guess that's kind of all that's in here. I'm going to use some of the browns in here just to deepen up the outer corner. And I also think of this palette, when I think of teddy brown, specifically these types of shades, just the kind of left of neutral toward warm brown tone. I just love how it looks on me. And then for a little added sparkle toward the end, we're going to use Lunar Lightwave, which I pulled out recently. Not part of Shop My Stash, actually. I pulled it out just for this look yesterday, and I was like, why did I ever stop? Why did I ever not use that? Because it's definitely been a long-term favorite of mine, but every time I take a break from it, I come back to it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect shade. All right, so I'm going to start with the Glossier Trio. I'm going to go into this matte, and I'm really just going to buff it all over my lid and predominantly in my crease. And I should zoom y'all in. And I just feel instantly this tone of brown. Again, I don't think Glossier cracked any codes with these monochrome formulas. I've used other of these, or I since decluttered them, but I had other of these trios. The matte's a little dry, I would say. Can be a little patchy. Not this one, but others. The satin I actually really like the formula of, because I feel like it is kind of hard to find. Outside of luxury makeup, actually, and I guess drugstore, actually, but there's kind of a missing middle in prestige. I don't know where you would put Glossier, probably below prestige, but above drugstore, of true just satin shades that aren't metallic and don't have prominent glitter in it and all of that. So I kind of like that they did a satin. And then the metallic shade is pretty, but again, it's a much... I usually like my glittery shades now to be more glittery. I mean, that's a keyword, and this definitely has like a base pigment. It has pretty prominent sparkle in it, but it is more of the kind of classic, fully opaque metallic. That's not always my gig, but again, the tone in this, and I will say there's like kind of like cool tone sparkle in it too. This is just like, I'm so glad I am pulling this back out now, and I'm so glad it's still performing really well. It just makes me feel so pretty whenever I use it. And I just think they really nailed the color in this trio. And I don't know. I still think I would have loved if they just made these quads. It doesn't bother me that it's only 3 shades in a 4-shade space. I think this would really do well if it had, like, if they updated the formula of this. I think it'd be great. Still do the matte, still do the satin, because I really do like the satin option. I think make this a glittery topper, and then I would add a 4th shade that is maybe like a split pan of like an eyeliner and something else, or just a deeper tone matte to deepen up and get more longevity, or not longevity, get more variety out of the trios, or, and you know, by making them quads. I think if they relaunch them like that, they would do a lot better, but you know, I think these are still around. Almond is still one of the ones they sell, but I don't think they sell all the original shades they launched with, because I don't think these did particularly well. And again, I'm not being super careful with this at all. Interesting thing I've noticed, a lot of people who I feel like do more intricate eye looks than me are just like a lot neater and like really keep their shades close to their eyelid and like leave a lot of room around their brow and don't really blow shades out, I guess is how you would say it. I've always been a girl. I blow everything out. How I want to be perceived. Sure. I always blow like my first shade out, and I like having a lot of shadow that pretty much almost goes up to my brow bone. That's how I feel the best in. But I've noticed a lot of people who probably are a little bit more skilled in eyeshadow than I am, like really keep it a lot closer to their lid and keep it very tidy. And I think use smaller brushes than me. I like a pretty, this isn't like huge, but I like a more traditional sized blending brush to, again, really like blow shades out. And I feel like that just emphasizes my eye shape really pleasingly. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I think it did. All right, I'm going to hop over to the VISEART palette now. I'm going to go into this brown. And that's just going to deepen up and kind of add to the teddy brown look we're going for. And again, I'm just really buffing that in to the Glossier matte and not being too careful about anything. I really want it like blown out. I guess smoky. I mean, I want it well blended and I don't want it to be too harsh, but I want it to be pretty prominent, clearly. And it doesn't need to be too neat. But I'm just not one for neat eye looks, I think. I think I like a little bit more blown out and mild. Okay. I'm gonna go in with a smaller brush. Actually, I want smaller than that. This deeper chocolatey brown. And really press that along. I mean, you can see this is the brush I used yesterday for this. This is the REPHR 13, and it is such a great brush for... I think some people would probably use this for the crease. I like to use it for my lash line and like blowing out. What is that? Why is this just a video of me saying blowing out too many times? And like kind of blowing out the shadow liner. Okay. Wait, I'm like trying to, like, what other way could I say that? Like, what other way? Blending out. But that's like, buffing out. Maybe that's better. But I start by just pressing along my lash line with that. And it can look a little intimidating at first, but if you just keep blending... Oh, man, my stomach growled. I am hungry. I'm actually going to barbecue with my friend in a couple hours, so he gets to see me nice and glam. I get to be like... One of the fun things about being a YouTuber is that you can show up to places with ridiculous makeup and you'll be like, sorry, I was filming. So glamorous. And really it's just me in front of a mirror in my small apartment with my dog talking to a camera about blowing out eyeshadow. It's not all glamorous as it turns out. I start by pressing that, again, like I said, along lash line, and then I'll just start with kind of light motions, like putting that into the crease, and it does look a little bit messy. One, we're going to put shimmer on it, so I'm not that worried. And then two, I'll just go back with the original brush I was using and blend it all out. I hope this is the one I think this is the one I was using. I like how it shapes my eyes. I like how it emphasizes kind of the size of my lids, I guess you could say. Or it just makes my eyes look bigger. And this is what I do a lot day to day. I sometimes just do it with the VISEART mattes. This time I obviously started with the Glossier one, but I will definitely do this day to day. And I don't know, I just love haphazardly blending a bunch of warmish toned browns into my crease and kind of calling it a day. And then again, we're not caring too much if that isn't perfect, because it'll get cleaned up in post, you know? It'll always get cleaned up in post. I am gonna go in with this peachy kind of beigey shade that I have a pretty significant pan in, just to make it look a little bit less muddy and messy and a little bit more blended out. This is the REPHR 27. This is like my perfect blending brush, by the way. I'm gonna go into the satin with this brush, get a good bit of product, and just place that everywhere on my lid. Doing the hokey pokey dodge. Right, and then I'm gonna go into the metallic shade. I'm just gonna go pretty lightly into it. It picks up a lot. It can get a lot of base pigment quickly, and I'm just gonna tap that over where I put the satin. The other day I just used the metallic. Today I wanted to use every shade. Again, you can probably see it does have kind of a little bit of like almost a silver reflect. It's just so pretty. And it does, even though it's like a metallic, it does have a pretty healthy amount of sparkle. And I feel like every time I wear almond is when I get the most compliments on my eyeshadow at work, which I think is funny. Now I'm gonna go into Phytosurgence Lunar Lightwave. Like I said, I hadn't reached for this in a while. What made me reach for it is kind of funny. I was watching It's Just Stuff, my friend on YouTube here, and also just somebody I'm a fan of. And she actually just placed her first Phytosurgence order, and she was talking about it, and she said she was inspired by me to buy Lunar Lightwave, which is so funny whenever I'm an actual influencer, when I'm like, oh my god, I've influenced. How fun. I was like, wait, I haven't used that in so long. I need to pull that back out. And when I was doing this look yesterday, I was like, this needs Lunar Lightwave, because it just, like, I like what how it is right now, but I want a little bit more glittery and a bright shine on the center of my lid, and I'm also going to put it in the inner swoop. So I'm going to pick up that. This is such a hard shade to show on camera, but it makes such a difference in real life. And how bright this glitter shines, I also feel like really helps give contrast to this look, because before it was kind of looking all samey mid-tone brown, and now it's definitely got some contrast, which I think is great. And it just adds this like ethereal sparkle that's like so, oh, it's so good. And it's really hard to show on camera, but I just think it's so pretty. And when you catch yourself in the light, like in the middle of the day or something, it really just, it just hits. So that's like about the eye look. It's pretty simple, but I think very, very pretty. I am going to tightline with this Westman Atelier eyeliner. And then I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get mascara out of the way too, because mascara really helps this look come alive. Do I want to use my brown or my black mascara? Either would look good with this. I think I'll use black actually today. This is the SAIE mascara in black. I've used it a million times. That really sets it off. Again, I think I applied so many mid-tone browns that I remember even yesterday when I was doing this look, I was like, is this too samey? And then once I added Lunar Lightwave and once I added mascara, I was like, actually, yes, night line, that's important too. It's so good. It's so good. And I just feel so pretty in this. And I mean, I love a cool tone smoky eye too. This just makes me feel like, I don't know, a Disney princess or something. I don't know. I think it looked good. I already did some skincare before we started, and the first step of my complexion, I will say. I mean, this eye look is kind of extra. It's like a look you could probably get from just like one neutral palette. I use 3 things for it. The complexion I did yesterday for this look, and what I think is my best complexion, let me count. 6 products. 6 liquid products, or liquid and cream products will help us achieve my best complexion, which is a little bit obnoxious, but what works, works. What can I say? We're going to start with kind of like a skin tint primer hybrid, I would say. So I'm going to mix, and I mentioned this in my Clove Shelf video, I'm going to mix all 3 of these, the SAIE Super Glowy Gel in Rose Glow, Maybelline Super Stay Skin Tint in 118, and Glossier Stretch Foundation in Very Light 4. Since I filmed my Clove Shelf video, I was experimenting with like, can I just use 2 of these? Does it have to be all 3? To get my magic mixture, it has to be all 3 because this gives it like the perfect base pigment that matches my skin, a nice natural finish that's very skin-like. This gives like almost the appearance of bronzing drops, but like blurring matte bronzing drops. And this shears everything out so it looks a little bit more skin-like, makes everything glowier, which I like. And also like, I feel like this has like a blur and a perfection aspect. And all 3 of these together. And what I found is key. I like doing it with a sponge too, and I may have even done it with a sponge in my Clove Shelf video, although I think I maybe use my hands. It's best with your hands. I used to be like really, I'm going to start mixing these by the way. I used to be really averse to putting on complexion products with my hands, but I feel like this combo needs the warmth of the hands to really get the product into the skin. It's very specific, but it works incredibly well. The amount of everything that I use, I just mix it on the back of my hand. I don't like love using what's the word I'm looking for? A palette. I kind of prefer just going in with my hands. And I just feel like this combination like gives the skin some dewiness, but also like really blurs out and perfects my skin. It doesn't necessarily have a lot of coverage. Like I can definitely tell it's evening out my skin tone, but I really like what it does for my skin texture, and I really like putting more product on top of this. I think it's like a good, I guess foundation you could say. And I think combining all of those products really helps. And I feel like the Maybelline can look a little heavy on me even when it's mixed with other stuff. But again, sorry. Sometimes I don't know if I've said this in a while, but sometimes I have a really hard time getting out M and W words. I really like mixing it on the back of my hand because I feel like that my hand absorbs some of the product, and then when I'm rubbing it into my face, it also helps take care of some of that excess product and really makes it one with the skin and just gives me this like almost like perfected, not quite matte, but skin finish blur and color to the face. It's just, you don't need to go out and buy all 3 of these products. Please don't. This combination of super dewy primer, skin tone, skin tint, I would call it Glossier foundation, and a little bit of a foundation that's a little bit darker than your skin tone. I feel like that's the combo right there. I don't know if it's like really specific to these products, but they do all play together very, very nicely, and it's just a really lovely combo. On top of that, we are going to add stuff. We are going to add my NYX Pro Fix Stick in the shade Pink. I use this pretty much every time I put on makeup. I've talked about it a lot on my channel. I probably don't need to talk about it much more, but it's great. And even though this feels like I'm technically using a lot of products for like one complexion look, but it doesn't end up reading or feeling like a lot of makeup on my face. And that helps neutralize my stubble, even though I just shaved, but still nice to have. I really notice the difference when I don't color correct. I always say that, but then I don't for a couple of days, and I like look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, all right, good to check always. But yeah, there is a difference. And now finally, I'm going to apply 2 of my KOSAS concealers over this little combo that I did. I will say in my Shop My Stash, I only pulled out the darker one, and I was like, I don't really need the lighter one right now. I miss the lighter one. I just like having 2 concealer values, as it turns out. So I'm going to apply the lighter one first under my eye. Is this the lighter one? Yes, okay. I always get confused. A little right there, some on my nose, on that color correct and stubble on my forehead. Kind of do the same with the darker one, a little bit less of the darker one under my eyes, a little bit more of it on my cheeks. And I just feel like using two concealers like this really helps with, again, contrast and depth. And I remember years ago I was watching Jackie Aina on YouTube, and she made a point that I had never really thought of, because I always was like, well, why don't you just blank out your foundation? Like why not just blank out your face and call it a day? Like, make your face one shade with your foundation. And she was like, you need contrast on your face because your face is not all one color. And I was like, right. And that's why, like, sometimes when people are like, I need the perfect foundation match, I feel like there's flexibility with it because you are using concealer. I mean, some of us aren't. Some of us just use skin tints. Some of us just use blush, etc. But if you are doing a full face of makeup, a traditional full face of makeup, you are using bronzer, you're using blush. Like, you're creating dimension on your face. And yeah, it's nice to have a foundation that kind of matches perfectly with your skin, but also you have to decide what skin tone. Do you want it to match your neck? Do you want it to match your actual face? Like, everything like that. Kind of realizing that your face is going to be all of these different colors because your face naturally is all of these different colors was such a game-changing thought that Jackie Aina taught me. As far as educational YouTubers go, the most I actually learned about makeup from were Samantha Ravindal and Jackie Aina when it came to, like, applying makeup and all of that. And to me now, my skin looks perfect. Like, obviously I have makeup on, but, you know, there's still a little bit of, like, redness peeking through. There's still, like, you can see some texture. It's a really nice amount of coverage. It doesn't feel like a ton of product at all. Another nice thing about doing this combo is I feel like the Maybelline especially helps everything set down. So when I do this, it, like, instantly kind of sets down. That means stuff going over it too just isn't, like, slipping and sliding around, which is really nice. Let's do contour and bronzer. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here at all. I'm going to use my Westman Atelier contour stick in Biscuit. I feel like having a bronzer kind of helps add to the teddy brown aesthetic I'm going for. And Biscuit is definitely a shade that is pretty neutral, but leans just a little bit warm in a really nice way that I think really flatters me, personally. And then I'm gonna use my Glossier bronzer. She is so almost empty, but there's still more in there. I'm, like, worried that, or not worried, but I feel like there could be, like, one more use in here, or there could be a month's use in here. I just feel like whenever people talk about using up the cloud paints, they always are surprised how much the drugs last. I really like Sale, even though I don't know if a liquid bronzer is ever going to be my favorite bronzer. I really do feel like it goes so well with Westman Atelier Biscuit to create just, like, a beautiful sculpted but bronze cheek. I think it's really pretty. I usually would, I think in more glam looks, go in with my KOSAS bronzer or maybe even my Gucci bronzer, but I didn't when I did this look yesterday, and I really liked how it turned out, so I think I'm gonna do the same. For blush, I feel like such an important part of this is blush, and it's got to be Fume by Phytosurgeons, which is the perfect kind of dusty rose color. It definitely has a good amount of brown in it though, and it's like a brown that's just left neutral toward warm. You guessed it. I have not been able, and I feel like I said this in my last video too, I cannot stop using Fume. I cannot stop using Fume. It's just my favorite. I will say, I had somebody message me on Instagram and say that they have trouble getting the Phytosurgeons blushes to last, and sometimes people's skin just needs cream blushes more than others. I will share the way I have gotten them to last longer on me, because I definitely did have like, sometimes they would last longer on me, and then sometimes they'd fade really quickly. What I think helped is, one, just the initial application. I've shown this before, but I think it's helpful. This brush specifically works great with these, the Sephora Pro Foundation 56. I put that directly into the pot, and I get a good amount on the brush, but then I go on the side of my hand and I basically blend it out on the edge of my hand to where you think there's nothing on the brush, but there is. And then I will start applying it wherever I want it. And what I do lately is I really over apply when I put cream blush down on the initial application. And I like to take my cream blush just across my nose. I'll pick up a little bit more from the pot and do the same exact thing with my hand. And I'm kind of doing a pretty messy job because what's going to happen is that I'm going to set my face, and that's going to diffuse the blush pretty heavily, but also lock it down. And then what I do after that is I go back over with more blush. And that I found, along with setting spray and setting it, really helps the blush to last all day for me. It doesn't like look the same as it does when I initially applied. I don't think any cream blush does, but you can still see it at the end of the day. And that's kind of what's helped me. And I'm really buffing that in. And again, that looks kind of ridiculous, but once I set my face, I always actually like to add more to, again, kind of like lock it down, get it to wear longer, and because I like a lot of blush. All right, I'm gonna set my face now. I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury powder, which is barely kicking. Tom told me I should repress this, but I'm lazy and I don't want to. I don't set everywhere, just usually my stubble area to set the color correct, since I put more product there than anywhere else. Under eyes, and then usually somewhat along the forehead. Oh no, oh my gosh, this powder broke. Don't wanna like put it too high. See, oh no. Maybe that's why I should have reset it. Should I just call it? But I want to use this up. Ah, that's so annoying. Okay, well. Okay, what would you do? Would you repress that from here? I don't even know if I have rubbing alcohol, though. I'd have to go get some. Ugh. Catastrophe. Okay, well, I'm going to put that to the side. Y'all tell me what I should do with that. Should I just call it an empty, or should I repress? I do, for context, I have a full size of that I can just start using. So it's not like I'm super precious about that product specifically, but I do want that to count as an empty. And I know that's like kind of up to me, but like I'm curious, what would you do in that situation, especially if you're like a panner? Like, would you just repress this? Because it wouldn't take that long to use, would it? It's just like repressing stuff is so annoying. I'm gonna go in with my Chantecaille finishing powder. I will say I have officially decided I do not like that elf powder. The Halo Glow press finishing powder, it's just too heavy. I don't know, it really is detectable on the skin. I've used it so many ways. I've used it as like a setting powder, I've used it as a finishing powder, I've used it as almost like a finishing powder foundation, I've used it like on a puff, I've used it on a brush, I've used it on a large brush, small brush. It's not it. It's just not it. I'm sorry. And now that I did that, I'm going to go back in and add more blush and kind of blend out that blush. And again, even though this looks pretty blushy, this is going to fade on me. And then once it fades, it's going to kind of give the perfect blush look. I just like to over apply. It's kind of a good tip to get cream blushes to last a little bit longer on you. If you go ahead and over apply and kind of override the exact look you want, in a few minutes you'll get the exact look you want, and then you'll have that for longer. I think what I want to do, and what I did yesterday, I used the Ritual Defy highlighter in Eyespo. This is something I pulled on my Shop My Stash that I really wanted to get more use out of. I'm so glad I did. I feel like a lot of times, one of the things I did that was good is that I didn't put my usual suspect highlighters in this go around with my Shop My Stash, and it forced me to reach for this, and it forced me to remember how much I love it. Because I think sometimes I look at how this has really more of a cool tone shift, and I don't want to pair it with a lot of my looks that tend to be more neutral warm. But I feel like the contrast of this with the warmer tones is really beautiful. And it's not like too cool toned at all. It just has like kind of like an opalescent kind of like just slightly lavender look and shift to it. And what's also great is that you can apply this over powder and it does really well. Obviously you can apply it before powder and it just like melts into the skin. It's like, it looks like you have really dewy skin and you can definitely see it, but it also looks so natural and it smells just absolutely divine. So pretty, so pretty. I am now going to spray my face with some setting spray. Going in with my very small e.l.f. Mauve Side lip liner. There's a lot of avenues I could go down. I thought about doing my About Face Cherry Pick lip product. I thought about doing Glossier Leo, Phytosurgence, Distant Depths. But what I did yesterday and what I want to repeat is Summer Fridays Iced Coffee. This is just such a beautiful brown balmy gloss type thing. And yeah, it's not going to last a super long time, but it is just so pretty. Just super dewy but perfected and blurred skin, a nice warm rosy brown eye, beautiful dusty rose blush, a little bit of a glossy brown lip. I just feel like this is my favorite look. This is my best makeup look, and what a fun time to share it with y'all. Usually when I put makeup on camera, and I think I'm like have been doing this a little bit more regularly lately, so that's helping, but this was so easy for me to do. And usually it's like a little bit more of a struggle, or I get a little bit more nervous putting on makeup on camera. But this time around, like, these are all products I use all the time. Well, not all, but mostly products I use all the time that I know really well. I worry sometimes that as I'm doing content more regularly, it'll really be revealed that I don't have like the largest makeup collection. I don't get PR, so it's not a ton of variety with products. But I also think I know more about them because of that, and y'all can really see what gets used, what doesn't, and all of that, and what gets rotated and all of that good stuff. But yeah, if I had to do my makeup one way for the rest of my life, this is pretty close to what it would be. I just, oh, that cheek with the cool tone pop, with the highlighter, the Ritual Defeat Eyespo. That's really key to this too. And we did it. That is my best makeup look. I would love to hear what y'all's best makeup look is, if it's anything similar, or I'm sure for some of y'all it's like more colorful eyeshadow, or I feel like my best, gosh, why can't the Kentucky stay in for one video? The best. My best makeup look used to be more like, and sometimes still is, but like lavender, and you know, lavender is neutral, something I still believe in. But lately, and I feel like more summer months, this is my best makeup look, and it feels so good. It makes me feel so good. It's just kind of the opposite of what green eyeshadow does, is basically why I wanted to make this video. I can't stop looking at myself like, oh, such a confidence boost. I'm telling you, again, even if you didn't do it along with the video, if you need a confidence boost, do your best makeup, whatever version of that is. Colorful makeup or whatnot. Just like make time for yourself, prioritize yourself, sit down at your vanity and do what you want to, not because you need to go somewhere to impress somebody, not because you want people to have an impression of you, not because you even want to make content, just because you want to do your best makeup and you want to give that to yourself. Because it really does help. And it's not been the best time for my self-confidence, but doing this here and doing this yesterday just by myself as a self-care practice is really what I mean when I say that beauty is such a huge part of self-care. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Give this video a like if you did enjoy it. It helps me a lot in the wild, wild west of the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see future videos. And thank y'all so much for being here. We're gonna be okay. Bye, y'all. Look at this. Oh my, look at my eyes. Look at my eyes. Blown away by myself yet again.